Right now, from KTAB News, your local election headquarters, this is Big Country Politics.
Thanks so much for being here. I'm Travis Ruiz, and we do start our show with the impact of COVID-19 on the Big Country. The city of Abilene this past week once again reporting demographic numbers. This after some big changes with reporting data required by the state. KTAB's Mercedes Hernandez speaking to the district's director to learn more about the analytics behind the science.
It took us longer than we had hoped, but I think we're ready.
It's been several weeks since the Abilene-Taylor County Public Health District has published demographics of positive COVID-19 cases. That is, until Tuesday afternoon.
It's got information about the positive cases, the active cases, the age breakdown, their current status, transmission type.
Health Services Director Annette Lerma says a new database has been designed to better store COVID-19 information.
They are currently going back from a historical perspective and recollecting all of the data that was reported by the different sites. And so they're kind of rebuilding the day-by-day reporting structure.
Looking at the numbers themselves, Lerma says Abilene's positive cases have been different compared to other parts of the country.
For the most part, the people who have been infected have fallen into the white category in terms of race. Our positives have been a little bit on the younger side, a good portion of them under the age of 40.
COVID-19 numbers have changed several times since daily reporting began. The state asked Taylor County to stop reporting cases found in nearby prisons and results from antibody tests, leading to some confusion around the numbers.
I think we have done our very best to just be as transparent as we can, and like I said, probably to a fault.
However, having battled COVID-19 herself, Lerma says she understands the need to report accurate numbers.
It kind of gave me a unique perspective.
She's confident this new system will provide a better way to keep the public informed because, after all,
this is their health department. We're funded by taxpayer dollars.
In Abilene, with coverage you can count on, Mercedes Hernandez, KTAB News.
All right, and 2 ACU professors have been contracted to help analyze that COVID data. However, the city now looking for a full-time analyst. Next, we move to the latest on COVID-19, and the state KTAB anchor Bob Bartlett spoke to Governor Greg Abbott this past week. We want to play that in full for you right now. This is a KTAB News exclusive.
Texas right now in phase 2 of reopening the state. Just a week ago, Governor Greg Abbott announcing the protocol, and tonight the governor is joining us live from Austin for an exclusive interview. Governor, thank you for joining us. Abilene and the Big Country haven't had the number of cases places like Amarillo have, or Dallas or Houston. Is it time for Abilene to completely reopen?
You know, the good thing about communities like Abilene is they do such a terrific job of responding to issues like this and challenges like this, and as a result, the spread has been very slow in Abilene, and it's because of the results we see out of places like Abilene, as well as, candidly, the entire state of Texas, that everyone will see a lot more opening up of our businesses very quickly. We know that it's been so detrimental to the pocketbooks of so many people, whether it be in Abilene or elsewhere, about being able to keep your business going, paying your bills, earning a paycheck to put food on your table. And we want to fix that as quickly as possible, and that's what we look forward to doing.
Well, as you know, Baylor Scott and White is cutting salaries and hours and laying off people. Actually, we're doing a story today here in Abilene about a barber in Brownwood who was forced to shut down, now has lost his business, and cutting hair was helping him with his PTSD. Now, I know you're hearing about these cases all across the state, but what can really be done to help these people, the economy?
So it's a two-part process. What really helps them get back to work and help them earn the money they were earning is to open up businesses even more and more rapidly in the state of Texas. The thing to accomplish that goal is by everybody continuing these practices of good distancing, good hygiene, so that we continue the downward trajectory of the spread of COVID-19 in Texas. The more we accomplish that, the more and the quicker we will open up these businesses and get everybody back to work full time.
Well, that brings me to my next point. Some say you're reopening too quickly. Some say it's not fast enough. What is your thought process on reopening the state, and how does this all really impact you personally?
Well, so you raise a question I get all the time, and I get it every single day. Well, you're going too fast. You're going too slow. The fact of the matter is, we had to do it in a way that puts life and public safety first. And Texas has done a remarkable job because we have one of the lowest death rates in the United States. All of our numbers are moving in the right direction right now, but we just need to continue the process to make sure the numbers look good, to make sure that we reduce deaths, we reduce hospitalizations. When we accomplish those, that does allow us to continue to open up the state of Texas. And so my personal goal is to see a pathway where we are going to be able to open up more and more businesses quicker. Because for everybody who has bills to pay on the 1st of June, they need to know what their pathway is going to be for getting back to work. I want to provide clarity on that pathway.
And just this afternoon, actually, you added some businesses to your Phase 2 announcement earlier. What are some of those businesses that you've okayed?
Things like water parks and other amusement type centers that people will be able to go to. And so we want to open up more and more of these types of businesses so that these businesses will be able to pay their bills, but they can hire the people who will be going to work for them, things like that. But you know, we have so many things open up this week, things like Little League sports and even pro sports and personal services, and of course restaurants are up to 50% capacity. Hopefully that will be increasing soon. But summer camps are opening up, and there's going to be so many activities, especially for our kids at this time of the year, so incredibly valuable to them.
Governor, one more question before we leave you. You've been in close contact with President Trump throughout this entire time, and he's talking of moving the Republican National Convention out of North Carolina unless the state opens up. Are you ready to invite him and all Republicans to the state of Texas?
So the Republican Party of Texas has already made that invitation, and we'll see if he winds up in North Carolina. I got a feeling that North Carolina will not want to lose that gem, but we'll see. If North Carolina doesn't step up to the plate, Texas already has.
All right, sounds good. Governor, we appreciate your time. Best wishes and stay safe.
You too, thanks.
All right, still to
KTAB's coronavirus continuing coverage, brought to you by Dr. Tim Martin.
And still to come here on Dr. Paul Fabrizio is here in studio. The latest political analysis. We have a lot going on. We're back in 2 minutes.
Big Country Politics on KTAB continues.
All right, welcome back to Big Country Politics. Joining me now is Dr. Paul Fabrizio, political science professor at McMurray University. Thanks so much for joining us.
It's good to be here.
All right, let's start with your day job, obviously, as a college professor. So tell me about some of those changes that you guys have gone through. You know, school is technically over right now, but how was that last month or so?
Well, ever since spring break, it was a different experience because all of a sudden everything was online. And what you had to deal with were students who didn't have internet access or their computers couldn't handle the technology. So unfortunately, we experienced at McMurray, just like everybody else experienced, some students who basically dropped out. And we worked really hard to get them involved as possible. In the end, it's okay, but it's not the same as face-to-face. And you know, we use at school, we use a couple of different programs. You know, I've used Zoom, I've used Microsoft Teams, and just staring at a computer and talking to people gets a little old after a while. You just miss the contact. Now, next week, we start summer school, summer session number 1, and I'll be teaching students in an in-person format, and everybody will socially distance. We'll be in a room of 30 students, but there's only going to be 5 of us in the room. Okay. And so we're going to see how it works, and this will be an experiment to set up for what the fall is going to be like. Good. And so that we're hopefully are back in session in the fall.
All right, very good. And, dealing with this pandemic, we first started talking about this in January, as we talked about before. Did you ever foresee this pandemic becoming such a political thing?
I never thought it would be, but at the same time, intellectually, anything is going to become political. That's just the way it is. After we accept that there's this virus that's messing our lives, then politics has to play a part. And now it's dividing us again. And I mean, that's just the way it is. We have to deal with it. It's, whether we wear face masks or not is now a political issue. How quickly we open up, what our churches are like, all of that is now political. And that's unfortunate, but I don't know any way to avoid that, to get around that.
Not only political, but partisan, really, right?
Yes, yes. And I mean, clearly the Republicans are invested in re-electing their president. And so to get President Trump re-elected, he has to demonstrate that the economy is back on track and that we have this virus under control. So therefore, it makes sense for Republicans to push for the economy to move forward, for people to get back to work. And there's even some Republicans who are saying the face mask is just a sign of weakness. But there's other Republicans in different parts of the country who are saying, no, the face mask is absolutely necessary if we're going to get back to work. And so there's a division in the Republican Party, but then there's a strong division between Republicans and Democrats over what we should do. And then at the deeper level is the reality that there's an awful lot of Americans who are still afraid to go back to normal. And so what do we do even if we open things up and people don't want to go back to normal? Mm-hmm. That's the harder thing.
It's interesting to think about. All of this perpetuated by social media. And we could talk for days about this, but social media, making full politics on steroids, really, right? Yes. And there's some interesting things happening right now. Obviously Twitter putting a little message saying click here for the facts on mail-in ballots.
Yes.
Yeah. So a lot is weighing with social media, right?
It certainly is, and the president is angry about it. A lot of conservatives have been angry about social media for years, and they think that it's biased against them. And there is some evidence that it is. But at the same time, conservatives have their other means of communicating. For example, TV networks like Fox, the One America channel has ways to do it. Also, talk radio is mostly a conservative media. So there is ways for conservatives to get their message out. But social media is one where the president has found great success, and now he's finding there's a little bit of pushback from Twitter. And so he wants to respond, he wants to crack down, and we'll see if he is able to. The reality is that Twitter, Facebook, whatever are private companies. And as private companies, they have great freedom to do what they want to do. They have First Amendment rights. And so in the end, there's a limit to what the government can do.
Right. It'll be interesting. Today is Thursday that we're recording, and the president is expected today to announce an executive order of some sort, right?
Of some sort. And we'll see what it could be. It could be simply a request that they be investigated, that you investigate the social media for monopolizing practices, that sort of thing. Could be some restraint of trade kind of thing, where the government does have an ability to control things. We got to remember that you can make an argument that Twitter monopolizes a part of social media. Facebook is a monopoly, you can argue. But in terms of regulating, that's going to be years off. In terms of punishing these companies, again, that's years off. These are private organizations. they exist. You know, the freedom of speech, freedom of the press, and all that stuff that gives them the right to do what they want to do, much like this station exists.
Except for we are regulated by the FCC and the federal government, right?
You are. There's certain things you can't say. Can they control your content?
Well, you know, some would argue. You never know, right? No, they can't. But
yeah, but even then, it would be the subject of lawsuits that would last for years.
Yeah.
So.
All right, Dr. Fabrizio, we're going to talk a little bit closer to home when we come back right here on Big Country Politics.
Big Country Politics on KTAB continues.
All right, and as we come back, I want to get a little bit closer to home. Governor Abbott, you know, going across the state this week, going to some of the hardest hit areas, Potter, Randall, Moore counties up at the Panhandle. Yes. Man, they're hard hit, as we all know. You know, how do you think he is responding in all of this?
If you look at the public opinion polls, the governor is getting high marks from Texans. If you compare the governor's marks to how President Trump is doing, the governor is doing well. What I've seen is anywhere in the high 50s to low 60s for the governor's approval rating for the handling of this coronavirus crisis. So that's all positive for the governor. I think there's just an element of people who are never going to be satisfied, and that's just the way it goes. At the same time, one of the arguments is that the governor says things, but how often do we see him with a mask? How often do we see the other people who are at the press conferences with masks? And so, you know, we're asked to wear a mask, but if we don't see our leadership doing it, are they sending out mixed messages? And, you know, I understand the governor had a mask with him when he was in Amarillo, but where's the photographs? Where's the video of him actually doing it? And those are the things that I think should have been done a month or two ago to really enforce if they want to do that social distancing. So, you know, the governor is the end. I mean, he's the decider. You know, President Trump provides guidance, but in the end, this whole emergency thing is the governor. And the governor has tremendous responsibility and tremendous power. We usually think of our governors here in Texas as not very powerful. The lieutenant governor is often considered to be a more powerful figure. What Governor Abbott has showed is that he has ultimate deciding power. And I think those will really stand out when he runs for re-election, if that's what he chooses to do in a couple of years. People will say, look at how he did, look how decisive he was. He certainly can use that to say, look at, I made hard decisions. And in the end, I think that's what most people want in a governor, is he willing to make the kind of decisions that have to be made?
And to show just how powerful he was with these executive orders, he has made them supersede the local orders.
Yes.
So cities like Abilene, you know, they were really locked. They can't just decide to make restaurants go to 100% capacity. Am I right?
Yes, you're absolutely correct. The governor has taken advantage of what power he has to really impose his vision of how we're going to get through this coronavirus situation on everybody else. Now, counties, we need to understand, according to the Texas Constitution, are simply the arms and legs of the state. Cities have a little bit more autonomy, but the governor has really taken that away. And some mayors have complained about that, but the governor has said, I'm going to be the one who's going to decide this. The problem is, of course, is you have a one-size-fits-all in a state as diverse as Texas, and is that really the right approach? You notice that other Republican governors have let counties make their own decisions. You think of Florida as an example of that, where counties get to decide what they're going to do. Not here in Texas. Governor said, this is what it's going to be. This is what it's going to be.
Right, and like you said, a lot of difference. You know, you have, you know, Potter and Randall up in Amarillo with a whole bunch, and I think Throckmorton near here has 0 cases.
Yes.
So you have that huge, variety. We have lots of counties around us who have what, one or two, or, even Jones County, the majority are obviously at the Middleton unit. So
yeah, we're in this strange sort of situation. How do you set a one-size-fit-all? Because it appears, especially when you go into West Texas, that there's no cases, as you said. So why can't they fully open up? But the governor says, no, we're going to do it in these phases. We're all in this together. And of course, he did make the exception for Amarillo and the surrounding area.
They had to wait another week. Yeah.
They had to wait another week. But in the end, they're going to be caught up with everybody else. And so, Throckmorton County is taking place just like Harris County. And does that make sense?
Right.
That's what the governor wants.
All right. Switching gears just a little bit. July, looks like we're going to have a mayor's race.
Oh, we are. We're going to have an election.
An election.
We're going to have an election. And so there's the mayor's seat and also one city council member. Donna Albus's.
Yeah.
And then there's going to be runoffs on the Democratic side as well.
Yeah.
For statewide office for U.S. Senate. So we are going to have a little bit of politics. The question is, will anybody pay any attention? News shows can talk about it. Will the candidates be able to raise any interest in their campaigns? How many signs are they going to put out? That sort of stuff. Will people be talking about it? Or are we all going to be talking about, hey, we're now free from the coronavirus, or we're back under the coronavirus? And is that going to steal all the attention?
With something like the mayor's race, Mayor Williams is, kind of under the spotlight because he's up for re-election, but he's also, this is his time to shine or fall, right?
Yes. In one sense, when you become the executive, you want the power to decide things. But sometimes you don't want it in an election year because people are going to be judging you immediately. But if you've done a good job, then you have nothing to fear. And we'll see how the people in Abilene respond to the mayor. My suspicion is that because we're in this situation, he will dominate the news, and his challengers for the mayorship just won't be able to break through. No matter how hard they try. Most people are not going to be paying attention to this election, unfortunately. Most people are not going to be paying attention to the slate of candidates. And often in races like this, name recognition is really important. When you're the incumbent mayor, you've got an advantage over anybody else. And if you're making decisions and reporting on daily coronavirus counts, you're going to really stand out.
All right, Dr. Fabrizio, let's put this up, the professors on KWKC, right?
Yes, 1340 a.m., Monday through Friday, 4 o'clock. Thank you so much for bringing that up.
Absolutely. Can't wait to listen. All right, Big Country Politics is back in 2 minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Big Country Politics on KTAB continues.
All right, that does it for this week's edition of Big Country Politics. BigCountryHomepage.com, your home for all things politics. We'll see you next week, same time, same place. Thank you so much for watching.